This is I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I think one of the greatest things that's going to result from this is that I'll never have to tell any of these stories ever again. I can completely allocate this part of my brain, which requires a lot of work to hold together. I can just say, I can forget this shit, because if I ever need to recall it, just go to YouTube. Thanks, Google. I appreciate you allowing me to share or extend my brain like this. I mean, so this is a really, I was scared to talk about this for a long time. I moved to New Orleans with this fry cook that I worked with on TGI Fridays in Altoona. I made more money there than I did in Key West as a chef or Albuquerque as a baker. It was odd. I had tons of flair. I had the best flair. I had one of those pepper mills. I made it in a drill. So you go, pepper, done. You've got your pepper. Or no, that was cheese because the pepper would have been too much. No, I did like a handheld thing. I had a lot of gadgets, a lot of flair. Anyway, I broke up with her and I went through a couple jobs, and before that, bakeries. The French people, they didn't like me, but they didn't speak English, so I don't know what they didn't like about me. I got this job on this train called the American Orient Express as a baker. And the executive chef was brand new. The pastry chef had been there for 2 years. The executive chef wanted to know if I could bake something specific, like biscotti or something. I was like, yes, of course I can bake biscotti. And I thought it was like a dream job. I love trains. My whole crew loves trains for the most part. It's hard to really say why. I don't think it's the schedule. No. I watched one of Mark's interview with Lewis, who's like a crackhead, junkie, sex addict. And he did something with trains, and I highly suspect, man. If train comes out of your mouth, you got a big question mark, and we're like, are you part of my posse? I think so. And they flew me to Tenino, Washington. I got on this train, and I found out there that the executive chef was a real chef. He was a machine gunner in Iraq on a helicopter, and then he worked for free in France for like 3 months, and then he was like, I'm an executive chef now. Probably watched a couple of Emeril Lagasse, did a little bam bam, pro chef. And the pastry chef, who used to be the executive chef there, he wanted to go to pastries. I think he went to culinary school. Anyway, very dysfunctional crew. Everyone. We had the cars and we rented our engines from Amtrak. And off we go. And I started a sourdough culture from a pineapple leaf from Hawaii. I called it Hawaiian Tenino. And I made bread. By the end of the trip, I was making bread from this pineapple leaf. And air from Washington. So we went down to Los Angeles, and then we went over, and it was like a test run, to get everybody trained because everyone was new, and I could tell it was a what's the right saying? Train wreck? Is that a metaphor? What is that? We stopped at, and everybody was alcoholic, for sure. And we pulled up on the Grand Canyon. It was pretty cool. We walked from the train, hung out at the Grand Canyon, sucked it all in, went back on the train, kept working. And it was hard to sleep. And they had to make up time, and they would go way too fast. It felt like you were going to die. Like the train was just going to go like boom and hop off the cars were not designed to go that fast. But the I know the engine cars probably were fine, but it just seemed like no way. The train, like the tracks need to be in better shape to go this fast. So it was scary. And the executive chef had his argument with the pastry chef. He said, hey, the pie crust is too tough. And the pastry chef said, well, we're kneading it too much. And the executive chef was like, do you agree, Robert? Is it, I think you need to knead it more. And I was like, no, the pastry chef is right. You need to knead it less. And after I sided with the pastry chef, man, I was fucking dog. Out. Boop. Like, you are fucked. But I also screwed up majorly because we stopped in New Orleans and I got an apartment with one of the waitresses. We were paying half on Esplanade right at the end of the French Quarter. It was a nice apartment. And we had this agreement that we would alternate schedules, and whenever she was on the train, I would be at home watching her dog. And then when I would be on the train, she would be at home with her dog. And she was hot. Oh, man, watch out for the hotties. They're fucking... they have that power, and it takes a lot of will to be like hot and not use that power. So I put all my stuff there, my art. It was just all art. That's all I had. Art and like memorabilia, like my Tonka truck and shit. So very few possessions. And anyway, when we stopped in New Orleans, of course, we all got hammered. All of us. Super drunk. And I lost the key. I was with her. We were together on this training mission and partying on Bourbon Street. I didn't like Bourbon Street, but what the fuck? And I lost the key to the apartment, and that was... She was with me, and I was like, I don't know, we were dancing or something, and it takes a lot for me to do. And it was an accident. And it's not like anyone from that bar is going to be able to... Her house didn't get broken into. Anyway, she's like, you're irresponsible from then, even though that she was with me when it happened. And she saw that it was just an accident. Like I had a hole in my pocket, like a literal hole. I know it doesn't happen often, but holes in pockets do happen. And if you have a key in a hole with a pocket, I could tell. But anyway, I got so shit-faced because I was so much stress, and it was time to leave. And I'm supposed to know New Orleans because I'm from New Orleans. And one of the big no-nos is you never walk over a track. And I was not familiar with the Amtrak station, and I could see my train, and I had 5 minutes, and there was a fence, and if I went, I would have missed the train, and then I would not have this awesome job. So I was like, nothing to lose, you right? If I walk around, I lost the job. If I hop the track, hop the fence, and then hop the several tracks, super dangerous, get on the train, I still have a job. So I took the logical path of risking my life for some stupid fucking train job for $10 an hour with an obviously incompetent executive chef. We had these old people. That's the only people that frothers and old people they were super expensive trips. And we did pick up some free. I guess it was like a discount deal because training deal, half price, I don't know. But this executive chef bought 6 cases of foie gras. And I was like, we got nothing but old people on this train and young people, which I'm sure I don't particularly like foie gras. I've eaten it. I've eaten brain, but foie gras pizza? Pizza. Anyway, I hopped the fence. I hopped these several tracks, which if there's, all of a sudden 2 trains come in, I'm dead. But I make it to trip, knock it out, you're dead. And they have a bunch of cameras, so I might have gotten busted. The train station might have sent video of me to the company, or the executive chef just might have been. I really felt like I knew I was gone whenever I agreed with the pastry chef. So then we went up to DC. and I got a flight. They paid for a flight back to New Orleans, and I got fired. And when I got back, the waitress was there, and she had all of my shit on the sidewalk, and she said, "No, well, you're not working anymore. We're not doing this, and I don't trust you." And that was really because I didn't have a job, and I didn't have much money, and all of my shit was there. And what the fuck am I going to do? So I had been selling paintings on Jackson Square, and this guy, Mark, fat guy, heavy southern accent, really kind of, I don't know, fruity or something, but like an evil fruity. Oh, yeah. The waitress had a crazy dog. Is that important? Thrown out. So this guy, Mark, he bought a few paintings from me. And anyone that can help me eat, I appreciate. And he saw me out on the sidewalk. He lived across the street in this mansion. And he's like, "Oh, buddy, you got a problem?" And I said, "Yeah, I got a problem." I told him the story, and he's like, "Get a job. You can stay in one of my rooms and get an apartment. For however you like. However long you like." I was like, "Really?" And he told me the story about, he almost sold the house to Brad Pitt, but Angelina Jolie did not like him, so he lost the sale to Brad Pitt. But he really got along with Brad Pitt really well. Really, really well with Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt said something nice about Mark. And so sure, yeah, I got a room, and he wanted me to, stay there. But I was like, no, I'm going to get a job. So I got a job, Marigny Brasserie, got an apartment, 801 Elysian Fields. And I was there for like 3 weeks and moved my stuff out. And I think he was a little surprised. But yeah, no. I don't want a creepy sugar daddy. So a few months later, he invited me over to a party to his house, and his son was there, and he had this stupid dog. The dog jumped up on my lap, and I was like he buys paintings. Fuck, you buy paintings, you buy some access to the weirdo. And it was getting weird. I don't know. He was really creeping me out. So I was like, I'm gonna go paint. And his dog was sitting on my lap, and he went to pick his dog up, and he grabbed my dick. And his son's sitting right there. And I had just given his son a weird self-portrait of myself. I'm all green and fucked up. And I'm like really in an awkward position. And it felt rapey. So I left and I stopped talking to him. Didn't talk to him for about 10 years. 10 years. I saw his fat ass ride around on this dumb bicycle with a southern accent. He made all of his money. He inherited all of his money from slaves. He complained about having to lose like $1 million to his brother for something, but his brother's a shithead and didn't deserve the $1 million or something, I don't know. And he had me inspect a house for him on Bourbon Street, where it was historic, and the roof and the top floor was slanted, so you only get to count this like square footage. And he's like, I just want to raise the roof and count this square footage, but the historical district wouldn't let him do it because it was like, I don't know, a couple hundred years old and historic. And he was like so angry about that. But he had me inspect it. I'm like, okay, I mean, I've worked on homes, but I'm not an inspector. Anyway, 10 years later, I was sitting at the Jackson Square, and I'm like, I need money. And his fat ass came, and I didn't look away when he rode by. I looked at him, and he stopped. He said, "Hi, you still selling paintings?" I said, "Yeah." And he bought a painting. And he bought another painting, and he bought another painting. That's great. I love eating. So one day on Jackson Square, I'm like starting to do pretty well because they opened it up to prints, and I do these giclées, Giclées? I mean spit in French. I agree. And I could do these paintings that look like originals and sell them for $40, And if the person came up and said, "Hey, is that an original?" I'd be like, "No, that's a giclée." And But if they didn't ask, I didn't tell. Don't ask, don't tell, right? If you think you're buying this fucking little detailed painting that would take somebody like, 80 hours to do, and you think it's original, and you're going to buy it for $40, you get what you deserve. The irony is, if you kept it, I hope I can start selling paintings soon for some money, and those shitty fucking G-clays would be worth something. So I was enjoying the fruits of my labor, and I bought this little stupid drone for like $15 or something, and I was flying it in Jackson Square. I'm sure they won't allow any of that now, but I was in front of the cathedral, sitting on the bench, flying my drone, and bring the drone back. And Mark was riding his bicycle and stopped and sat. We were sitting there, and he's like, what do you want to do with my life? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I'm liking that I'm making money, enough money to buy $15 drones from Amazon, have them delivered to my friend's gallery. And I said, something about weed. Oh! I had been looking at property because I was thinking, if I can make enough money, I might be able to just buy an empty piece of land to set up a tent somewhere that like somebody can't kick me off of. I didn't know anything about, you can't do that. You need RV site permit, but whatever. Because it was in my life, I was like, I'm going to end up under a bridge, homeless, fucking suffering, like wanting to kill myself. And I think I would, if I got to that point where it's like, no, I would do it pretty quick. And I was like, man, I've been looking at these empty lots, and I found these properties in Oregon that I know that if I got, I could do regenerative farming and fucking have $1 million within a couple of years with nothing, with like 3 gallons of hydroponic nutrient. I could start on a sand as long as I have water. In a couple of years, I could have $1 million. Promise you. I'd have to pay for seeds. Like buy $500 on seeds. This property, regenerative, organic. I'd use my shit. I know how to do it. And he's like, oh yeah, Colorado, but I really wanted Oregon. And I would do that. And he's like, I eat pot brownie, or I make pot cookies. I get this, expensive weed. I put it in a blender, blend it up, and then I just put it with cookie mix, and I put it in the oven. I eat one of those. I'm fucked up all day. It's great. I was like, oh, I didn't take you as a pothead. I can't smoke it. They're dirty people. Anyone that smokes anything's an awful, horrible person. His favorite store is Dollar General. And he said he wanted a place in Oregon with a waterfall and a view of the ocean. So I said, man, I'll hop in my minivan. I'll drop this shit. I don't like these G-clays. I'll drop my shit. I'll go out to Oregon. I'll find you a piece of land we can grow weed on. And he's like, okay. And I said, I don't have any cash. I mean, I spent all of my last dollar on this drone, and if I'm making money here, printing from my minivan from my friend's backyard, I'm not gonna. I think I was I was living above a Vietnamese nail studio, which is not good. Lots of pollution, right beside the crew of Chewbacca's. The den. And so I had an artist friend, and her son was he graduated from underwater welding school, and then he also got a degree in diesel mechanics. And I was like, he didn't want to do the underwater welding because he thought he would die. A lot of his friends did die, but so he went to diesel mechanics, and then he went out in somewhere. I think it's like the Midwest, North Minnesota area. There's somewhere like it lights up at night. There's so much fracking. He went up there and and built the diesel generators. They're called, or not generators, they're called pumps. They're called blenders. So they mix the poison in the water and they shove that down into the, and he said it was like earthquakes. These big diesel engines that he worked on, fucking up the earth to get that good, sweet natural gas. But I was like, he's got to be fucking smart. You don't graduate like. So I was posting everything on YouTube, or not YouTube, Facebook. My progress, just to my friends. I think I might have had 60 friends at that point. And so I didn't think I needed, I thought he was looking at my Facebook, watching the whole progress. I was making videos, and he was going to come out after I found the property and set it up and got at least water. That was my plan. That's what I did. And I told Mark, I don't have the money to do it unless I sell prints, and that'll be in 2 months. I don't want to wait 2 months. Let's do it. So he pulled out $1,000, put it in my pocket, and he said, "Now you got $1,000. Go out and get a piece of property." So I spent 2 months. I was like, $1,000, that's great. Drove out there, looked at 26 properties, was getting really depressed, about to give up because, I didn't look on the coast. Duh. You don't grow weed on the coast. I didn't look for a waterfall. I found a view, $1 million view. So he settled for the $1 million view. The view wasn't important to me, but many times, a view is part of the shape of a perfect grow. And it was. And I couldn't believe I found it. But there were reasons. There was 1, 2 psychos, 1 prepper, and then a whole crew of douchebags moved in and did an illegal grow through our easement. There's a video. It's called The Grow, Merlin, something. Anyway, so I found this perfect piece of land, and he bought it. It's $250,000. Sweet. And I started setting up. I got a shower going. I got water, which I had to carry about a quarter mile from the spring, but at least I had water to bathe with, and I went in town to get drinking water. And there was already a well dug. It hadn't been developed. That's why 2 wells were dug, and they were low producing. And I was going to do everything green, collecting rainwater. You can collect rainwater not off of the ground, but you can off of any structure. So I was going to make these platforms for all the plants, and the platforms themselves were going to collect and save the rainwater. And then I was going to use extremely efficient growing methods. And so I spent the first night there. It was beautiful because, I've been staying in the Walmart parking lot, and that gets depressing real quick. And this guy, my neighbor, Ken Burns, he came down. "Who the fuck are you?" I was like, "I just bought this place. I'm not buying it, but I'm developing it." And I showed him paper. He's like, "Show me paperwork." I showed him paperwork. He wanted to see inside my van. So I'm like, this is my neighbor. I opened my van. He sees the safe. He said, "Open the safe." He had a gun. And he had 2 giant German Shepherds. The German Shepherds came up on me and whoa, right in my crotch. They were huge, 100 pounds huge. And I saw him training them with a chainsaw. They've been terrorized. Ken Burns got in trouble for damaging a person very badly. And he worked at a grocery store. What a weirdo. Yeah, it was traumatizing with these dogs biting at my fucking crotch. But I was like, no, because my father had a German Shepherd growing up that bit me in the head. And then he took it out, punted it, and then he shot it. So I've had a lot of this fucked up shit. I'm going to master this by getting a Belgian Malinois. And I'm really good with dogs. I'm really, really good with dogs. I speak dog very well. And so I open the safe, and Ken Burns sees my hash. And he's like, "Whoa, cool!" That I made. I trimmed in one of the first farms in the Emerald Triangle, and we were allowed to stave our keef. And I made hash, the best hash. The best hash. You could dab this hash. Like, the hash I made was like as clean as the extract from these Pennsylvania dispensaries. Just hash, no processing. I mean, processing of the hash. But it's not like bubble hash. It's not like, alcohol extract or CO2 extract or butane extract. It's just fucking through a screen. You could dab it. It's beautiful. Oh gosh. I gave half of it to Nick. That was his sign-on bonus. He smoked all of this hash. Just gone. It was like a couple of days. I was like, holy fuck, dude. What the? Like, I still have 95%. I like have a year's worth of hash. You went through a year's worth of hash in 3 days. Oh, I didn't tell you this. So yeah, terrorized by Ken Burns, we became friends. He liked me. I swung on his swing and I was like, no, man, I'm not here to fucking bust you. I just want to grow weed. I want to grow the best weed. And so Nick shows up and he has his truck towed. He has this giant Toyota truck, orange, called Athena, with these giant tires. But it doesn't run. He was at home in Colorado, and he had his truck towed to the backwoods of Oregon. I don't know how much it cost. And he had a little toolkit and no garage. And a large screen TV and an Xbox. And that's when I knew that I was in fucking trouble. Leia. He got a dog. Part of when he said. So at that point, I realized that Nick wasn't as intelligent as I thought he was, and but I still needed a partner. And he's a big dude, He's like, he would be good just for security. So I was trying to find things for him to do, and he was fucking up everything. I asked him to inspect this truck that I bought, this 30-year-old Ford F-150 with an extended bed that was jacked in the back, and I didn't know it was jacked, but it helped out because I hauled tons of fucking limestone in to build this road. And he's like, oh yeah, this is a great truck. I get it back, and I look underneath it, and the fucking thing's leaking. I'm like, Nick, man, you're a mechanic. You are a mechanic. It's leaking. I told you this is a green farm. This is poison leaking. No, fix it. So he fixed it. And apparently these gaskets, because it was the oil pan gasket that needed replaced, are super hard to do. So he spent all day, and he was worried that I was going to be disappointed. And he came up. I was working at the top of the property. It was really, I think it was a lot of the elevation was high from the bottom of the farm to the top of the farm. And he came up, and he's covered head to toe in like this black shit, which is poison. I'm like, oh my God, dude, what's wrong? Like, doesn't that hurt? And he's like, I fixed it, man. I'm like, that's great. Thank you for so much. I appreciate it. And he's like, it was really difficult. And I was like, it took you this long. I believe you. I believe that it was really difficult. He said, I had to go into the town and, look at YouTube, and it was like one of the most hard gaskets. I was like, you don't have to explain, man, but why didn't you get a shower first? It's already almost dark. You look like you're in pain. You don't have to. I believe you. Go down, get a shower, man. I'll be down. We'll smoke some hash. We'll smoke some of my hash. And he went down, and his brain didn't compute. And he went out, and I was like, man, if you're having a hard time here and you want to have fun, you want to do some things, just get a part-time job. I don't need you here all the time. I just need you here when the farm is running, and I'm sure I'll need your help during the development, but I really need you when the farm is running, which in my brain was, if I got another good person or a good person in there to help within a year, I was like everything. I was meeting all these, jumping through all these hoops, OLCC hoops, Josephine County hoops. It's hard, but it was happening. And I was like, I can't believe this is happening. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be able to get the hybrid Ferrari and have a nice person, in my life. And so he was, and then these douchebag neighbors moved in, And they started terrorizing us. They started shooting guns and having these people fly through with these giant water trucks at 90 miles an hour on dirt roads. And the guns were the big thing. You know, they're like going up there, they're, you know, pissing, marking their spots. And Nick went, and I was like, man, just go get a part-time job. Get away from here. Get an apartment. Get a girl. So he went out and he comes back and he's like, I found this stray dog. And it was this big black stray dog. And he named it Leia. And I was like, that's fucking awesome. That's great. Yeah, we need a security dog because the douchebags had these asshole dog, Rocky, and Ken Burns had these two psycho, gigantic German Shepherd females that are completely traumatized. I was like, yeah, we need security. Your job now is to train Leia. Leia is our security job. And Leia immediately recognized me as the pack leader and just wouldn't listen to Nick at all. And that's like, I tried to like be like, Leia, no, you know, Nick. But it's a really hard thing to, you know, you can't. Leia knows. Leia knows I'm the pack leader. So Leia's like, Nick. And Nick's like really timid. Can't do it. So I was like, and I could control Leia instantly. You know, it was like I taught her to sit and lay down and stop in like one day. And Nick couldn't get her to do anything. And the most important thing was, Nick, you can't let Leia run off. And, you know, because I got her tagged and all that, and the shots. You can't let her run off. She's our security dog now. My security dog. And oh, so much stress. I was growing tomatoes for him and weed and giving him tours. The owner, he's so shitty, you know. And so shit was getting really stressful with the douchebags that moved in and were shooting the machine gun. And I woke up one morning and Nick was gone and Leia was gone. I went to his tent and there was just this gun there. This gun that looked just like, it was a revolver. It wasn't the same kind that my dad put to my head. He put a Colt Python, chrome, 357 Magnum. This one was a Magnum. It was 357. It was chrome. It was big. I think it was a Ruger. They looked real similar. And I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck? So I got a holster and started carrying that giant, stupid, I think it was like 9 pounds. It was so tough. I could hit a fucking locust from 100 yards though. Took half a box of shells to get my practice back with that gun. The boom is a little scary, you know. Recoil is pretty significant on it. You know, it doesn't have that to absorb the shock. And and Mark, the owner, I was having problems with him. I got homicide approval from Josephine County, which isn't easy, and the cheapest way to get everything legal, because we were already illegal because we didn't have an RV site permit, and both of us were living in tents for over about a year, or yeah, I was for sure a year, and the cheapest thing was a trailer. This company would install it, hook everything up, total price $40,000. The lowest trailer. It was like a 1-bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, basic, but installed, guaranteed. And that's a good deal there. And I was like, this is what we got to do to get we have to have home site. I can't live in a tent anymore. I'm telling you, I can't live in a tent anymore. It's illegal. And I told you from the start, everything we're doing is legal. Oh, how did he fund it? How was this funded? That's an important part of the story. So yeah, I got there and the $1,000 didn't last long. So I had this bank account, Whitney bank account, and it was a block and a half from his second house in the French Quarter, which is his brick house right off of Bourbon, I think Dauphine. And he runs an illegal prostitution, what is it, for people that have their bachelor parties? Drugs, hookers, doesn't matter. Don't get the cops called. Everything will be fine, paying cash. So that was his business. And I was in Oregon, and I go to the library. Was it the library? No. No, I did have cell service there. And I had an iPhone. Yeah. He would send these random amounts. 1,292, 2016, 490, in different times, I kind of recognized a pattern, but it was random. It looked random, but it wasn't. And it involved like throttling like what I was capable of doing. I got an excavator, and a chainsaw. I just worked and reported. And I always answered the phone when he called. Hi, Mark. And I hated talking to him on the phone because he's a dick. And not interesting. Well, I mean, he's interesting. He's got involvement with the Ku Klux Klan and Mafia. And so, yeah, I changed my name. And I kind of feel like I might get murdered. But at this point, I think there's enough people that want to kill me. It's just like, oh, whoa. I think the best thing to do is just get her out there on YouTube and like, Mark Seal. So I told him no. I was talking on the phone. And he's like, I used to sell trailers. And I'm like, what? Yeah, before I worked in the bank for a little bit, I sold trailers and I saw the markup. And I'll tell you, they used to make them much better. They're just garbage. You buy them and I'm like, we're not buying it as an investment, Mark. We're buying it to get legal so we can start a fucking farm and make millions of dollars. It's $40,000 for, I don't know, a dry place for me. That's not a tent, there's psychos all around me, and like I'm with cloth. At least I would like the psycho to have to break through a trailer door before they can eat me with their German shepherds. And he's like, I'm not buying a trailer. And he's like, I put a deposit down on it was a trailer that was like 100 miles away. And you have to get permits. It was 35 years old. It was 72 feet, 3 bedrooms. And it was a piece of junk that he paid $8,000 for that could never, ever, ever, ever get up the back road. Ever. Even a brand new one. And if it did get up, it would be complete garbage. Like, you would take it up there to bury it because you couldn't use it. And he's like, you'll renovate it for me, and then I'll have a place for me, my daughter, and my son. And I told him I wasn't going to do that. And he said, I'm not paying $40,000 for a new trailer, so whatever. And I hung up the phone and I was like, oh my God. Oh, this was so much work. And I don't have fucking any money. Oh my God, how? Why would he be so dumb? Why? He knows how smart I am. He's seen what I can do. We get a fucking farm running. Then we have income. And why? And, he called again. I didn't answer the phone. Called again, I didn't answer the phone. And he's freaking out by now when I stopped answering the phone, because I always answered the phone. I was always nice. I was always pleasant. I was always agreeable. Up until that point of, oh, well, no, I did. There was one part. I was growing 4 plants. I grew 4 plants. They were nice. Courtside Jack. I mean, they were shrubby and gigantic. 45-gallon pots, I think. I didn't get the full season, but I had, all sun all day for these 4 plants. At the end of the season, it was Courtside Jack, Girl Scout cookies, Sunset Sherbet, and LSD. And then that's the recreational you're allowed to grow. And then he came out to visit and got a fucking medical card. Well, I'm like dying from all this work. He goes in, gets a fucking chiropractic back rub, and then he gets a medical card, and he's like, we're buying 6 more plants. You're growing 6 more plants for me. So then I grew green crack and Skywalker and OG, Kush. And then I was reading and I was like, oh shit, we can't have the medical because we don't have a primary residence. So I sent him a picture of me killing the 6 plants, and he didn't like that. He wanted me to grow him 10 plants and renovate a 3-bedroom trailer for him. So I didn't answer the phone. And I was getting my shit together. I took the deep cell batteries. I was making ice cubes because ice was a real nice luxury there. I had a solar panel, a deep cycle, controller, deep cycle batteries, ice maker. I could charge my laptop then without having to run my car engine because I was fucking super green, and told him exactly what I was going to do and did everything that I told him I was going to do. And my biggest problem was my partner. I really underestimated him. And I didn't realize that I'd be, I have terrorists. But so I was left with this fucking gun, and I went up and I'm like, what the hell am I gonna do? And I went bonkers. The douchebags, our property was an L, and theirs was like this, and then there was federal land, so I could walk all around their property. Only a crazy person would do this, but I walked all around their property, and with Nick's gun, I took a box of shells, and I was just boom, boom, boom. And so they're all there and just randomly hearing shots come from all sides of them. So I imagine that made them feel very uneasy. And I had started screaming at them and being like, what the fuck are you doing? Everything you're doing is illegal. I'm going to call the police. You're going to get busted. So there was a lot of tension. And I think they were working for some mafia people. I was just, you'd be surprised what you could do in some situations. And I went back to my tent, and I thought that the gun was empty, and I pointed it down between my legs and just dry fired it because I was packing in because I was going to send it to Nick, and it went off, and fucking bullet went through the tent. I have a picture of it. It's a hole in the tent. It was like this far from my foot. It would have blown my foot off. So this made me like, this is a devil gun. This is a devil gun. I registered it. I sent it through the United States Postal Service to a gun shop, told Nick, told his dad, who was an ex-cop, who busted a person in Colorado when he was from the UK. He was a cop in Colorado. He busted a person for pot, and I was like, at the time, you sent him to federal prison. You didn't follow up on that. He didn't realize that. And I was showing him how to grow weed in his fucking, where I set up a weed indoor grow in his bathroom. So I sent this box, this gun that was so dirty. I shot all the rounds. It was so dirty. It smelled bad. In this little box with seaweed packets, those little chips. I like them. That you can eat, packed full of seaweed with the gun, more seaweed, and then a note saying, I fucking hate this gun. And when the gun shop got the gun, they called the number, everything's registered. I was like, hello. He's like, hey, this is blah, blah from New Orleans gun shop. What's up with this letter? And I was like, man, you can ask the person that picks it up, Nick. I just really hate that gun. That was a good conversation. It was like, somebody's like, holy shit. I've done all of these things. Like, all kinds of things like this. This is what I don't understand. Like, how can I only have 39 followers? Jesus. I watch TV and I'm like, these stories aren't as interesting as my life. So, Mark from New Orleans, the Nazi sexual assaulting investor. He's bi, like I would ever have fucked him. Like, like you. So he's all freaking out because I disappeared. If he were my Facebook friend, I don't know, I blocked him. But I definitely didn't answer the phone, which is like, no, he wasn't on Facebook. He's one of those old timers. So I was watching my bank account. I was like, am I gonna get any money? Is he gonna try to tempt me with money? And $30,000 even. I was like, oh shit. And he was leaving messages, and I was like, Yeah, I just put $30,000 in your account, Robert. I haven't heard from you in a while. I hope everything's okay. Well, that $30,000 was for the greenhouses, which I told him we only needed one greenhouse, just one greenhouse. I had the spot for it. I already had cleared it. I had this nice level spot for hydroponics and this nice outdoor spot that was like this, that was east to west. It was like, it is the perfect. My God, I want to be rich again and fucking buy it. Rich again. So I didn't answer it. I was like, 30,000, all right, thank God I could go somewhere and work in a shitty fucking place and just be miserable for my life. Fine. It wasn't enough to start my own thing. And I waited another day. I was in the hotel room. I took all the weed in bags and everything that I thought was of value. I left a couple things back to a hotel in Medford. And I processed the weed in this hotel room. I was smoking nonstop because I was like, it's gotta stink. So I'm smoking nonstop. It was so horrible. Thick smoke the entire week that it took me to process these 4 plants. And I was freezing it, I was shaking it, getting the keef off of it, and eventually turned it into like halfway decent rosin, maybe 15% of it, and then this shitty rosin that I had to eventually put into edibles. But I smuggled it back to Pennsylvania in this piece of wood that I had designed. I split in half. I was able to put all the rosin in it, glue it, press it, glue it, and then I put it with my climbing gear, and it was looked like a false crotch, just in case it got pulled over. And I'm thinking, since it is really sealed, a dog might sniff it, but a police officer would pick it up and just think that it touched pot, not that there's actually pot inside, because it was just looked like a piece of block of wood. And I walk in, and the first night there, I hear cops outside my door. I have all this weed. I'm fucking smoking. I'm not a smoker, but I have to smoke. And have the AC blasting, cold as possible. And I saw a bullet hole in the wall. And I was like, I went out, and I'm, terrified, stinking like, weed and smoke, tobacco, and I talked to the Indian that owns the place, and he's like, yeah, there was a shooting here. There was just cops investigating. I was like, are they gonna come in my room? They're like, oh no, that's already did. They already were in there. So I process it, and I'm watching my bank account, and then boom, another $60,000, and I was like, 90 grand. Man, I went out, I bought a Maxima. I used one. It had like 200,000 miles on it or something, and all of the shit in it just made it sink. But it was like the fastest car I ever drove in my life. I felt so cool driving back to Pennsylvania, because my sister owed me a couple months of free rent because I renovated her floors. Her oak floors and her stairway and her hallway. All the oak. It looks really nice. And so I stayed there and got on OkCupid and met a person in 3 hours. And she was like the perfect person. And I stayed with her for 7 years. Learned a lot with her. And had a lot of fun. And a lot of misery. I don't know if I could date a normal person, because they would seem like gray. So I think I need to date somebody who had the personality disorder and then got better, because I still think those people, it's part of them, but as long as you're not hurting people, it makes the person really fun and exciting. So yeah, I got home and was with Bridget, and I was like, yeah. Bridget's like, go party. And I was like, no, man, I gotta buy a house. I need a house, a home. It's been too long. And I eventually found a home for $31,000 and sold it for $80,000 with very little work to it. I mean, a lot of work to it, very little money to it. So the FBI called my mom and my sister, and I'm like, it's just Mark. He's hired some fucking punk to harass you. Just ignore it. And they're like, it sounded really real. And then I got an email with .FBI or email, and I was like, oh shit. So I called him and told him the story, and he laughed hilariously. I was like, so I'm not going to jail? And he's like, no, man, that's not my department. And I was like, why are you calling me? And he said, we got reports that you were going to blow up Mardi Gras. Yeah, that you were going to take your art cart at some point have a huge explosive in it and kill people in Jackson Square. And it was just like so funny. Like gut laugh. The FBI agent was laughing from me laughing. And then I was like, I got all this money. I paid taxes on it. Taxes on all the total. It was like $150,000 that went through me, through my Whitney bank account. And after I paid taxes on the $90,000, I only had 60 left. I wrote off a lot. And with that 60, that's what I bought the house with. But Bridget, my sister, said, you have to have some fun. And it was a weird time. I got a trip to Greece, Athens, or Piraeus, I think it's called. The trip, the hotel, for $1,000. I brought $500 to spend. I had a boat ride to an island. I rented a scooter and drove around this Aegeus, I think it is. It was like a deserted island, like McKeesport, only in Greece. Like half of it was empty. Like construction just halted. Something happened to their economy, very bad. And I did a lot of walking there. I walked 100 miles, and that's what I did. That was my party money, and I didn't go into the really tourist places ever. I walked around them. I guess this can be part of the story. I walked around it and I met these teenagers and they were smoking dope. And they offered me some. So I was sitting out like where all the philosophers, like outside of the real historic ruins, the building shaped like a golden rectangle. And some brainiacs were up in there. And there are these, kids giving me a real good time. And I got high and we chatted and, their English was like half. And I offered them money. They're like, no, we can't take it. Can I buy you a beer? No. It's just, and man, so cool. And then I got on the plane on my way back and I was shaking. I got stuck in a tunnel. I just walked through a tunnel, like this huge tunnel, like danger. And then I got out and there was another tunnel. And I was like, that's whenever I found the pot farm up there and my hydrogen souvenir, little clay pebbles made from Germany. Yeah, a lot of fresh food there. And on the way home, I told the story. I was like, and he's like, why are you shaking? I was like, probably alcohol, probably like stress. And then he said, I work for the government. I was flying back to DC and I was like, oh shit! Please don't tell me you're from the DEA. Of course, who cares? I wasn't doing anything illegal. Anyway, that seems long.